Hi, I'm Brian with Clark, and in this video, we'll be talking about the LECO 1800E OHV, which is approved by the World Health Organization. The first step is to use a Phillips screwdriver to unscrew the 12 screws around the base of the machine. Now we're going to uncrate the machine, grab a partner, and take the top off. And next, the main casing. The next part of the installation process is to remove the ULV from the shipping skid. In this part, you're going to remove all 4 bolts and washers from the skid. This way you can install it using the Z-base railed systems and mount it directly onto the truck. The next part of the installation process is to install the remote control. Here we're installing the 9-point pin connection, which can only be installed in one way, so please do not force your connection. When installing your 9-point pin connection, it is located between the engine and the blower. Do not force it in. The next part of the installation process is installing the remote through the truck. In this part, you'll need a 5 to 6 centimeter hole saw. After you've drilled your hole in the back of the truck, feed your remote control cable through your hole, install it into your machine, then fill your hole with a rubber grommet so you don't shear your cable. This is your 45-liter fuel tank, which you have your gauge right here, and it's very important to make sure that you vent your fuel cap. Otherwise, your engine could stall. Here is your 57-liter chemical tank with a lockable and closable cap. Now, with a metering stick that doubles as a brace, which secures your tank to the machine. This is your 18 horsepower overhead valve Briggs & Stratton engine. Need to ensure that your key is in the on position for the in-cab remote control to work. Here you have your fuel filter for your gas line. This is where you're going to fill the oil in the engine. You'll need approximately 1 liter of oil. And this is your dipstick, which you will pull out to check your oil level. When performing maintenance on your engine, always refer to your owner's manual. When changing the air filter on the engine, this is where it's located. When changing your oil on the engine, this is your drain plug where you'll remove the plug to drain your oil. This is your spin-off oil filter to put a new filter on the engine. Lastly, this is your throttle arm. You'll use this to increase and decrease the RPMs of the engine. In between your engine and your blower is your direct drive coupling. Located on the guard is your tiny tack and a pressure gauge. Going back to the engine, when you increase or decrease using your throttle arm, you're going to increase the RPMs, which will be reflected on the tiny tack, and that also will increase or decrease your pressure. The reason we do this is to increase or decrease the droplet size coming out of the nozzle. Lastly, you'll see on the outside of the guard here is your spray switch. This is where we're able to pull from either the spray tank, the chemical tank, or your flushing tank. Now we're at our roots blower, which is generating 350 CFM coming through our air mast here up to our nozzle. We keep our nozzle at a 45-degree angle when mounted on the back of the truck. You may need to increase that to a 50 or 55-degree angle if you have it on a trailer. Our nozzle rotates 360 degrees. Our chemical is then injected into our air blast, shattering it into our ULV aerosol mist. When performing maintenance on your blower, again, always refer to your owner's manual. When you're doing so, you're going to remove this drain plug here on the bottom. Once all your oil is drained, put your drain plug back in. Then this is your fill plug. You're going to remove your fill plug and put in your oil here from the top. It's important to use 30-weight non-detergent oil. That's very important. You need to remember that. Once you fill it and you see oil start coming out of this level, stop filling, put your plugs back in, and your oil has been changed. When performing maintenance on the blower, you also have 2 grease fittings, one on the top and one on the bottom. Get your grease gun, insert new grease to both of your fittings, until on the back end of this blower, you see nothing but fresh grease come out. Lastly, as you remove your wing nut, you'll see your stainless steel air filter here on the blower. Again, refer to your owner's manual, how often that needs to be changed and cleaned. Here we have our flush tank and our weatherproof battery case. Here your flush tank is clearly labeled on the bottom of the machine. It's a 3.8 liter flush tank. Here you want to put your Clark flushing solution. The reason we use that is that it cleans and lubricates your lines and your pump. At the end of the evening, after your spray mission is complete, with the machine still running but turning the spray off, exit your vehicle, make sure you put your hearing protection on, go to the front of the machine, turn your toggle switch from spray down to flush. Come back into the vehicle, turn your toggle switch up, and flush out your machine for about 2 to 3 minutes. Again, that's to clean and lubricate your lines and your pump. After that's done, it's very important to make sure you turn your spray switch off first and then power the machine down. Here's your battery case. You want to put a 12-volt automotive battery in here, and it's extremely important to make sure you hook up the red to positive and the black to negative. That's very important. Lastly, here you see your inline strainer. Any chemical that comes out of your 57-liter chemical tank is automatically strained through this inline strainer prior to it entering your pump. Again, perform maintenance on this strainer per the owner's manual. This is your PDS box, which is your constant volume flow control system. PDS stands for Precision Delivery System. And inside this box, you'll find your FMI lab pump, which is pulling your chemical from your chemical tank to your nozzle, performing the spray for us. As we zoom in closer here to the pump box, we see on the outside here we have our 12 voltage regulator. What this does is it ensures that any spikes to the pump will ensure that we have only 12 volts to the pump, having a constant flow to our nozzle. Here on your pump, you can see this arbitrary scale of numbers from 0 through 9. Please refer to your owner's manual to see which number coincides with the flow rate you desire. Here we have our pulsation dampener, which ensures a constant flow from the pump to our nozzle. Here we have our pressure switch. Therefore, any low pressure or high pressure in our chemical lines will shut down the pump, hence shutting down our machine for safety. Lastly, in our pump here, when we want to increase or decrease the amount of chemical, the first thing we want to do is loosen our set screws. Then we come here to our black knob, and as we increase or decrease the stroke of our pump, that will increase or decrease our flow rate. Once we've reached our desired setting, you want to make sure you turn your set screws and lock your pump back in place. Here's some additional maintenance for your machine. If you find any corrosion on your battery, use some baking soda and a wire brush to clean those connections. With your chemical lines, you can see that they're very clear and white. Once these lines start to discolor and turn yellow and brown, they become brittle, and it's time to replace these chemical lines. After you've set your pump in your pump box, you need to come to the front of the machine and calibrate it to make sure that it's accurate. You need a receptacle to catch your chemical, and here we're going to use a 250 milliliter graduated cylinder that we're going to time for 1 minute to make sure that our pump is running accurate. To capture the chemical, we're going to come up here to the nozzle and disconnect our chemical line. Once our chemical line is disconnected, we're going to capture the chemical into our tank. Once all of our air bubbles are out, we'll come over here to our graduated cylinder, time our chemical for 1 minute to see if it's accurate. Now we're going to show you the actual calibration process. Before you begin the calibration process, take the rain cap off the front of the nozzle, and then make sure you put your ear protection on. We're going to start the machine now. you'll measure your chemical and see if it's accurate with the pump.